What's up, everybody? Today we're here to talk about how to create this abstract design, which looks very interesting, and with very simple steps we can create very complex shapes. We're going to be using Affinity Designer and Cavalry. So let's just get started. All right, so the first thing to do is we're gonna create this abstract shape that we can see here, and this is Cavalry. This is free software. You can go download and check it out. It's incredible, and I highly recommend it. So we're gonna create this setup, which will go step by step to show you how it works. And then we can just import this into Affinity Designer in a very easy way. In fact, just as easy as copy paste. But yeah, let's first create this setup and then talk about how it works in Affinity. So let us create a new composition, for example. New composition. And in here, this is a brand new composition. We're gonna make use, as you can see, we're gonna make use of circles. So if we press Option click, we can create just a simple circle. And the big thing in Cavalry here is just duplicators. I'm not gonna go through every detail that Cavalry has because we'd be here for absolute hours, but you can check that out for yourself. But I'm gonna walk through the steps needed to achieve this, and you probably and hopefully get something along the way. So we can, for example, set these to step. We can also make this smaller per object, as you can see, very nice. And we can make the whole thing a bit closer together. And now that we have this setup, we can, for example, create more. And I think this is more or less enough. We can probably make more of this and then make these smaller and make this smaller too. So we can have like a denser version of it. Now that we have this, we're gonna make use of one of the most powerful tools within duplicators, which is just behaviors. And inside behaviors, it's staggering. We can go to the ellipse shape now, which is actually turned off. As you can see, it's appearing there. You can click there, and everything that you do here will affect every circle that it's duplicated. So you can go to behavior, add behavior, and because we're adding a behavior like this, we're applying the same calculation to the width and height of the circle, which is very interesting because otherwise it would be distorted. So we apply a stagger, and we already see a very interesting effect, like a fading effect down, right? That's very nice. We're almost there. It's just a matter of creating a fall off, which you can access like that. You go to the stagger here, to the stagger layer, then you go to fall offs tab, and then add a fall off. And essentially you can see we have more or less the setup created. We can, for example, move the strength up and down, as you can see. And this is more or less what we had here. For example, we can make this a bit denser. And yeah, we can move the fall off. And basically, this is the setup that we need. One thing that I'll tell you is this is not exactly as like our design is looking like right now. And we can see a side-by-side comparison of the two. The main difference here is a very subtle one, but you can check the pattern offsetting here. And we're gonna offset each row or column based on some amount. And whenever I move this value, you'll see how these circles move, their rows, alternating rows move. So essentially we can move these circles like just a tiny bit to the right in order for it to feel like it's like a hexagonal pattern, like a honeycomb pattern. And that is incredibly interesting already. We can zoom in a bit and to make it feel like better. And that feels right about good to me. And yeah, once we have, and we are happy with this, right click, copy as SVG, and we can go to Affinity Designer, and we can go to a new artboard here and just click Command V for paste, and that's it. We have it there. I recommend you to group this because it's making this appear in a very every curve is essentially on their own, so you can just group them, Command G, and let's make that a bit bigger. And that's it. We have the shape. We can, for example, now rotate it a bit, just like in our design, make it a bit bigger. And that's basically the whole thing. We can maybe add text. And one of the most interesting points in here is that this is SVG, and so it can be manipulated like crazy. For example, we can just go to the stroke and add stroke to everything. We can change the color, so we can select this color and change it, or whatever we want to do. We can apply a gradient, which is what I actually did. For example, we can make this gradient like much more brighter here and much darker in here, so we can get this really nice effect. You can see it's very easy. We did basically nothing, like 3 clicks. So next thing we're gonna do is create this basic grid that we have here, and it could be like an image that you import from the internet, but it's cool to be able to make it our own, right? So you probably know where I'm going with this already. We can create a new composition. And well, a grid is just an arrangement of squares, right? That makes sense. So we can just create that. For example, let's go to the rectangle, remove the fill, and add a stroke. And well, we have a very nice grid already. We can put more squares in here, but as you can see, it's like distorted because it's creating them in this restricted space. For that, we need to change the step again. We can create more in the X direction and a bit more in the Y direction. It's a bit small right now, and you can see this effect going on. It doesn't matter too much, like you can leave it as such and basically just try out, add more, and then just copy as SVG, switch, and paste. We can tweak it to our liking, and as you can see, that's working. Remember to group, very important. And once it's grouped, we can just hit 2, 3, 4, or 5 to trigger 20, 30, or 40%, and so on here in Affinity, which is very convenient. So we're gonna hit like 3 or even 2. And yeah, that is already looking nice. Let's put it on the back, for example, so it doesn't interfere. And yeah, mostly the composition is there. So right now we're at this phase of the design, but we want to reach this one, right? Like the one that I showed you in the end. So what are the main differences? Well, one of the most obvious is the rectangle in the background, which is making it like the darker version of it. We can select the color from here, and it works very nicely. And one of the key aspects of this looking a bit better is the glow, which is adding just a very moody effect, right? So let's go and do that. You can access the FX panel here, but I added my own custom shortcut, which is Shift V, and that appears immediately for the object you have selected. So we can very immediately just go outer glow in here, up the radius, lower the intensity, and as you can see, it's already looking very nice. You can change the blend modes in order for it to fit better. You should actually change the color so it fits better. White is not the best, and play around with this. And yeah, like make sure to play around, have fun, experiment, and like put weird colors and weird blending modes and see how it reacts. See, this is very cool. So once we're happy with tweaking that, we can, for example, add the same thing to the text, outer glow, make it a bit less exaggerated, make it a bit greener, and that's looking incredible already, right? And for the final thing, I want to add a bit of what I call post-processing, which is adding layers on top of this and effects on the whole group in order for it to make it a bit more cohesive. It feels more compact. So for example, we can just group everything together, and we can create a rectangle that sits on top of everything. We're gonna make this rectangle completely gray, like middle gray. And if we click on the opacity swatch in here, we can switch between noise and opacity. So we can just drag the noise up, and then you just set it to overlay, for example. Again, play with all these modes and whatever fits best for your design. But you can see how beautiful this gradient looks right now. As a final touch, I like to group these again in order for it to affect the whole thing, and go to Layer and New Adjustment, which can also be accessed here via this mode. And I like to use the gradient map. As you can see here, it's creating a very dramatic effect. But in order to understand what this is doing, let us work through very slowly. So if I turn down the opacity, you can see Enigma and these upper side orbs are the brightest objects. And if we bump this up again, you can see the brightest objects become blue. So if I reverse this, now the brightest objects become red. So it's just mapping the brightness, the overall brightness of the poster to whatever color we're setting here. So this is incredibly powerful because, for example, we can choose a better color option, for example, a darker green in here that goes into a more yellow here. That is already looking incredible, but we're not done yet because, again, blending modes to the rescue. We can just add a lot of blending modes in here. Overlay usually works super nice, and this already is looking incredible. We can turn down the opacity in order to make this effect a bit more dramatic, but I mean, this already is looking super crunchy and crispy. And adding final retouches and whatever you may add again, we can end up with this lovely design, abstract design. Took no time to make, and it's incredible fun. You can continue iterating, continue experimenting, copy, create another object in Cavalry, paste it again. It doesn't work, copy it again, paste it again. Just go on, and I assure you, the skill that you build with this and the flow that you get into is incredible fun. So I hope you like this, and let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you very soon.